It's that boy Fred, host of FanView podcast. Tune into the NOTN app, weekdays, 3:30 for the FanView podcast. Go to NewOrleansTalkNetwork.com to watch more episodes of FanView podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and watch.
Jessica Barber, University of Southern Mississippi women's basketball assistant coach, and you're watching FanView podcast. It's bringing in more viewers.
Right.
And so we all wanted this problem.
Yeah.
You know, everybody wanted this problem, and now it's a problem. So what I have learned in this whole thing is people are going to complain just to complain. Like the WNBA comes out the other day and was like, we're going to be able to charter all these flights. Well, first of all, my goodness, can you see a 6'6" woman sitting in an aisle, like sitting in a regular airplane?
Cardoso.
They should have already been.
Should have already been this. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, FanView Podcast. We back at it again. I'm that boy Fred.
G Sports back at it.
Y'all already know what it is. Listen, we got another special guest in the room. Before
No
we
doubt
introduce
about
our
it.
guest, I want everybody to get locked in on FanView Podcast. If you're on YouTube, FanView Podcast. If you're on IG, FanView Podcast. TikTok, FanView Podcast. If you're still on X, it's FanView NOLA. Don't forget to follow G Sports. I can't help you if y'all need the rock. Get locked in, get subscribed. My man almost like 25,000.
Trying to get a 25 key, man.
Yeah, before Mother's Day. Get a man a gift. Don't be like that. You know what I mean? But G, go ahead and introduce our next guest, man.
Southern Miss assistant basketball coach Jessica Barber in the building, man. Appreciate you coming on, Jess. I know you had a lot going on with recruiting, spending time with loved ones and things like that. But we always like to start our podcast off and let our viewers know, man, about your journey. Let everybody know when you first fell in love with the game of basketball and how it got you to the point where you at today as a successful college basketball coach. And let me just read off a couple of accolades for when she was in high school at Franklinton, right? Two-time All-State, district MVP, went on to college at University of Mobile where she the all-time lead in assists, all conference, won a conference championship. And now she's doing big things in the college game at Southern Miss.
Washington Parish, stand up. Stand up.
No doubt about it, man. So let our viewers know, man, like tell them, let them know how the game of basketball has changed your life and when did you fall in love with the game of basketball?
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me. And I'm always going to make time for people who made time for me back in the day. And you most definitely did that when I was coaching at Carr. You gave our girls a lot of love before women was getting a lot of love for the game. So thank you for doing that. Man, I fell in love with basketball at an early age. It actually gives me goosebumps thinking about it. I remember being in the living room at my house as a little girl with my dad, and he stood up. He was a 6'2" man. I didn't get his height. And he was a 6'2" man, and he stood up one day, and he was like, this is how you have to shoot it. And I might have been 4 or 5 years old. And as he goes to shoot the ball, his hand gets caught in the ceiling fan of our house. And that's a memory I'll never forget, like that, at that age, it was more important for us to talk about our shooting form than Winnie the Pooh or whatever cartoon it was back then.
Right.
So obviously I started playing when I was 4. My brother was playing. My dad played on Monday nights in a men's league that we had in Washington Parish where they just showed up at the gym and played. He would take me with him. It was never stay home with your mom or anything like that. I was sitting there and there was a rail. I was sitting there and watching, always, just watching the game. He made me sit down with him and watch it on TV. So honestly, it's all I've ever really known.
Wow.
There was a time where I wanted to be like a physical therapist,
Mm-hmm.
only because they made really good money, right?
Right.
And we know we don't tell anybody what we're going to be because the Lord had other plans. Thank God he did, because here I am now coaching college. I don't know that coaching college was necessarily a dream. I guess the dream was always to impact lives in a greater way, and coaching college just happens to be that avenue that I'm getting to do that on now.
And as you watching your dad playing in an adult league and your brother was playing, where did that drive come from to work on your game and get as good as you did? Because you was a 2-time All-State player at Franklinton. You was a district MVP, and you was able to go play college basketball. That's not common for a lot of girls.
You're not wrong, and it was a time where I didn't even weigh 100 pounds. Like, I might have weighed 97 when I graduated high school, and at 5'3", I mean, I lie and say my media guide height's 5'4", but I'm 5'3".
Wow.
So I guess the thing that, and from both of my parents, even though my mom didn't play basketball, she played softball growing up, their work ethic. You know, my dad never allowed us to say, like, they kept it so real. And I think that's where I got that part from too, but they never allowed us to say we wanted something without working for it. Like, I've never in my life owned a Nintendo or a Sega, PlayStation. We never had that. Like, we literally played outside.
Right.
And we hooped outside, and I lived in a house trailer on this big old hill, and my dad put us a basketball goal up, and it was nothing but grass, right?
Right.
Got your handles right.
We played on it so much that it became dirt. And
Dirt.
Your hands didn't even get dirty anymore.
No.
Like, it was like
It's like pavement now.
cemented pavement.
Yeah.
But the ironic thing is that, and my brother and I, we joke about this all the time, he was a phenomenal shooter. Way Caitlin Clark before Caitlin Clark, way back there, which he was small too. So if you want to get a shot off, you better increase your range, right?
Jimmy Fredette style.
Yeah. So if you missed a shot, that hill was so deep and that you had to run down and get the ball.
Oh my God.
So we'd be like, oh man. And my dad didn't play that like, oh no, we done.
Go get
You
the ball.
can't leave the court without making the shot.
Mm-hmm.
So
Got your calf muscles right. Got your quads right.
Yeah.
So you went down the hill, you got the ball, and I'm like, I'm just going to make a layup. It's time to go in and eat. So, I mean, honestly, that's where it came from. And then being competitive, you know, you don't want your brother to beat you. Obviously, I couldn't beat him one-on-one, but I got good enough to, you know, challenge him in shooting competitions. So.
Yeah, it's time to play horse. You want to play? You want to play horse? Hit these threes. Don't want no part of it. He didn't want no competition.
No, he didn't want that smoke when I got older.
But talk about your college, and you're the all-time leading assist at Mobile College.
Yes.
Talk about when you finally got to that college level. Like, what made you want to still pretend to play this game? Because a lot of times when people get to that college level, they don't have the same passion for it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
What made you want to still keep going?
So obviously I had some Division I offers, and like, I go back to my dad keeping it real. I'll never forget getting a UConn questionnaire, and I went to the gym and shot for like 6 hours. He had to like come and get me and say it's time to come home. And that night he and my mom sat me down at the dinner table and was like, hey, everybody's getting that letter. And then he pushed the letters in front of me that I needed to be focusing on. And as a recruiter now, I'm like, I hope other people's parents are having those same conversations with them. But anyway, so had Division I offers. I've never in my life sat on the bench. I knew me. I knew I wasn't built for it. My parents reminded me, like, hey, you don't have a good attitude when you get taken out of the game. What are you going to do if you go to UAB and you sit on the bench for 2 years? And I was like, oh gosh, like, I don't know what I would do. Right. And the fear of the unknown made me choose a different path. So I ended up going to play at University of Mobile, NAIA school. They had won 3 games or three or 6 games, something like that, when the coach offered me.
Right.
I've never lost a lot either. And so my dad was like, oh, Jess, I don't know. Like, what are you going to do? Like, you don't know how to lose. And I was like, what you mean? We're not going to lose. And from that moment, I was all in. I didn't care about what level it was. I didn't care, you know, I didn't care about the D1 status. Like, I didn't. I knew that it was going to pay for my degree, which I would not have otherwise had without basketball. We didn't have money to go to college.
Right.
Like,
facts.
That stuff doesn't discriminate, you know, like, we didn't have money. I knew we didn't have that. and I wasn't a valedictorian either.
Right.
You know, so I didn't know if I'd get a lot of tops.
Exactly.
I was smart, but I was
Bashful.
way more
Hell
concerned with my assist to turnover ratio than I was my GPA. That's for sure. So anyway, getting to college, there was a girl that she was actually from Louisiana, University of Mobile. Our head coach was from Louisiana, so she recruited the state, and that was very attractive to me. And there was a girl from Laranja High School that they had beat us in the state championship, or eliminated us from getting to the state championship, and she was a big reason why. And so she was the starting point guard. And so I felt like I would probably end up playing behind her some, and I was okay with that. I knew our games complemented one another. We loved the game. It wasn't like one of those things I'd never see the court. And then she tore her ACL. And so I was the only freshman on my college team.
Wow.
So I come in thinking I'm going to have some time, and she tears her ACL. And so I'm like thrown to the fire.
Right.
And she tore her ACL before my freshman season started.
Oh.
So like I go in with one mindset thinking like, hey, I got plenty of time. And, you know, I was surrounded by some really good players. And so I've always been the type, like, I could score. I could shoot it. I was a really good three-point shooter. That's probably what paid for my degree. But I've always been the type to, like, get her involved first, and then it'll come back to me.
Right.
Instead of vice versa. And so I think, you know, I played with a girl from Jamaica that was 6'6", Ed Marie Lumsley. I played with another post player, Crystal Costin. We call her Tough. She was from Thomasville, Alabama. Tough. You know, so you don't break an assist record without some really good players.
Like players.
And so for an NAIA school, we beat some Division I's. You know, I mean, we were really good. And back then, like Xavier, that we were in the GCAC, Xavier was nothing to play with.
Right.
Like he had them. I mean, they would press you from the time you got off the bus and barn.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's when the barn
with the barn.
The barn was like car.
The games. DJ Julie in the corner, Lil Wayne, Chris Paul, them,
JR, them Smith, them.
I'm telling you, it was that place they have now. It's kind of like I, you know, was talking to before the show about it just sitting the same when I go watch a Xavier game. I'm like, they're not. I'm telling you, as a point guard, he already was pressing you, and it's a press that I can't like replicate.
Correct.
Because you think this girl's gonna come trap you, but she really comes from the backside. And then I'm like, okay, I'm ready. But the crowd was like right on top of you.
They're right there. They're right there.
And then he's coaching on the court too. So at times you're like triple team. I mean, it was the most. I wouldn't trade my journey going NAIA for nothing in the world, and a lot of it has to do with that rivalry. 100%.
Now, I remember when I was going to Southeastern. So I graduated 2003, got to Southeastern, and I used to work the AAU tournaments that used to come to Southeastern. I had never heard of the Dominoes. I'm from Homer. You know, we had maybe 2 AAU teams down there. And so never heard of the Dominoes. So I'm working the tournaments my freshman year at Southeastern. I forgot the coach's name. He was the assistant girls coach at Southeastern. He used to give me all the jobs for the AAU tournaments. Brad. My dude. So I'm looking at these teams. It's like different age groups. And they so fundamentally sound like the epitome of a team. Like you take 5 out, you put another 5 in, it's like you're not missing a beat. Really good coaching. Length, just in my mind, all these girls going to play college basketball. You play for that organization. Charlie Domino, you know, to me, that was the premier travel basketball team back in those days. Talk about how that played a big part into who you are as a basketball player and a person, because I know you give a lot of credit to Mr. Charlie Domino.
Oh, I give him all the credit. I really do. Honestly, I don't think I would have made it through some of life's challenges without the toughness that he instilled in me. I mean, that man, I don't know, in my childhood, and this isn't a knock to him, it was his way. We knew it when we signed up. We were fine with it. I don't know that he ever told me good job.
Right.
Wow.
I don't. And you know, that first time he ever told me he was proud of me, I think came way late in my adult life. And I think that's probably why I am now. Like, I don't need all that validation or whatever. I just want to work. I just want to do, you know, the next right thing. Whatever. But yeah, our practices, y'all, oh my gosh. We used to practice at Tulane before Tulane had air condition.
Right.
And so we would come in. Now, I don't even think I went to my prom. We didn't do all that. Like, we played basketball, and because you're not wrong, everybody that played for them had an opportunity to play at the next level if that's what they wanted, and to play at the next level.
Right.
Like, you're not going to sit on somebody's bench unless you choose that route, you know. But he was honest with us too. He taught the game in a way that, as I played it, the rest of it was unfolding around me, which is why I think I became a great passer, because I could see it like almost before it was happening, because he prepared me for it. It's not like it just happened. Like, I knew it was going to happen because he was a guru with X's and O's. Offenses, like, he would draw up something and I'd be like, if we execute this stuff, we are going to score.
It's going to work.
And, you know, he's old school, and I think it's probably why I still believe in the traditional game, is because he was phenomenal with post players. And
y'all always had length.
Always had post
I'm
players.
talking about, it could be a 12-year-old team. Like, damn, this girl 12 years old.
And when he would, and I know if my teammates listen to this, they will know, they will be able to identify people that I would speak of. Like, he would bring people in and I'd be like, man, what are we going to do with her? And then she's going to play at a good D1. I mean, because if he saw a kid that could catch, he could do anything with him.
He could teach him the rest.
He could teach him the rest. Like, back to the basket post play is his child. And, you know, I get the privilege now to work with Barbara Ferris, who's from the West Bank, and she coaches with me, and she played dominoes and played 10 years in the dub. And, you know, like, we see the game the same. Even though I'm a point guard and the 3-point ball paid for my degree, I understand the necessity to have a dominant post player.
Right.
And it's because of how he coached us. Like, if the post player didn't touch the ball, you come and sit down. They gonna touch that ball.
Play inside out.
Inside out. And they gonna touch it early and often. That's what he used to say. Early and often. And because of that,
made y'all life easy.
We shot wide open shots. You know, so we didn't have to reinvent it. But yeah, I mean, his resume speaks for itself. He's coached some of the most amazing women's basketball players, you know, from all over. It wasn't just from this area, even though it was called the New Orleans Dominoes. He used to fly kids in from all over the place.
Kalani played for Dominoes?
Kalani played. I actually coached Kalani. Beautiful person. I actually got to coach her one of my first or second year coaching. And so she played for us for a short time, and then her mom, Dee Brown, who did play dominoes, she started helping out with the Pumas, and so naturally, Kalani went and played with them.
And for people that's watching, we're talking about former NBA player PJ Brown's daughter.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So, because I remember when Mr. Charlie used to walk into the gym, shirt tucked in. Right, it was almost like he was a godfather or something, and he was so respected by everybody. And I didn't understand the dominoes and what that culture was about when I was working these tournaments. And I started working those tournaments every summer when I was at Southeastern. And man, did I start learning about what y'all was all about and how good y'all was.
Yeah, I'll say at one point it was the oldest living AAU program in the country, and then there's Boo Williams, who's right next to it. And, you know, I think Louisiana, and one of my beefs with Louisiana is that we divide all of our talent up too much. And so we don't have that same. Listen, I love that every kid's getting an opportunity to play.
Right, I know what you're saying.
But playing on a national level, it used to be Domino's, Boo Williams, Georgia Pearls. Like I can still name these people in my head, and so because we're so divided now, and everybody has a team,
Right.
we don't get that same respect on a national level. I mean, there's still a lot of good basketball players here, lots
Right.
of good basketball players in Louisiana. So, yeah, he's very well respected around the country. Still to this day, I mean, when people know that I played for him, it's like automatically I get a different level of respect. And then coaching with him was instrumental in my development as a coach for sure.
And I just think that back then, if you played on a travel team, it was more like I felt like kids appreciated it more.
Oh yeah.
Versus how it is
How it is today.
Oh yeah. It wasn't like, oh, we're just playing another game. Like now, it's more about being showcased, and it's. I don't know that people even really look at the scoreboards.
They don't.
They don't.
Mhm.
I can tell
They
you,
don't.
we might have lost 6 games in 6 years.
When y'all
because
lost, it was rare.
if you lost, you were done.
Like the sky was falling.
You didn't get to keep playing. There was, you played in pool play and then you played in nationals, but they didn't have all these other tournaments. So yeah, like I said, winning meant something. It wasn't like, oh, we got 4 games this weekend. No. You got one game.
You got one
and
game.
If you win, you
lose,
keep going.
Keep going.
And he did not believe, y'all. This is the God's honest truth. I was like 13 years old, and we were playing at the Pontchartrain Center. And if you didn't finish first in your pool, you went to a consolation bracket. Back then, it was called the friendly bracket. And I won't say exactly what he said, but he was like, "We ain't playing in no friendly bracket."
Right.
So our season just, would have ended had we not won. So, I mean, we really didn't make losing an option. You didn't want to be around him if you lost. He did not take losing lightly, which, I mean, when you look at some of the people, I mean, Kim Mulkey played for him.
Wow.
There's no secret.
If you look at some of her style, the way she is, she kind of coaches that way.
She's so much like him in so many ways, and then obviously she has her own stamp on the game too as a woman. But
So, to talk about your time, what made you want to get into coaching? The college career is up. What goes into this place of getting from here to here?
so, like I said, I was gonna go to physical therapy school.
Get the money.
That was my plan. Then in February of my senior year of college, I tore my ACL. So my plan was I'm gonna go play overseas, do that for a little while, and then I'll apply to PT school, all these things, right? Tear my ACL February of my senior year.
Right.
I went into like a deep depression. Like my mom had to come and stay with me. Like I was literally depressed. I didn't know what I was like, man, I was preparing for college to be over and then to go on and do my thing.
Yes.
If an opportunity presented itself with overseas, which I felt very confident that it was going to happen. And so at that point, I just had it like ripped from me. And then with a torn ACL, I knew how that was going to go. And so I was like, I can't do PT school with this, although it probably would have been great. I could have got some hours or something working on myself. But so I ended up staying in college another year, and I got teacher certified instead. And my grandmother was diagnosed with cancer, and somebody in my hometown had passed away. So I went home to the funeral, and we're literally standing in the line to go in to have a seat for the service for the funeral. And my high school principal turns around. She's like 4 people up, and she was like, "Hey, I want you to come be our girls basketball coach."
At the funeral?
At the funeral, going in to sit down, and I was like, "Okay, Miss Young." I don't know that I ever told the lady no in my life. She was another Charlie Domino in my life.
Right.
She was my high school principal. She was amazing to me growing up as a
She really
kid.
cared about athletics.
Oh, she
Love
certainly.
principles like that.
She knew
Competitive.
she knew what would define the culture.
Yep.
Of the school, and she supported us, and we were good. Ashley Bankston, she went to play at LSU and she was at Franklinton before me. They played in the state semifinals. I mean, girls basketball was good, and our other sports were really good back then. So, yeah. So she asked me to come, and I was like, I hadn't even thought about it. at that point, I had not thought about coaching necessarily at that point in my life. I knew I would coach because I was already coaching dominoes.
Right.
I just didn't know at what level or what capacity.
Right.
So I went. They had not won. It had been bad for a little while. And so I scheduled strategically because I knew if we were going to build something there, we needed to win. And I was fortunate to have some really great athletes. They had never really been groomed basketball-wise, but you guys probably know Curtis Taylor, Brandon Taylor, Jaron Taylor.
Yeah.
I had their sister,
Oh,
Brittany.
yeah, they was athletic.
So
No doubt.
if you have a Taylor on your team,
You got an athletic play.
you can, especially in girls basketball. And so I got to coach them for a year. I think we ended up winning like 13 games, which was massive.
Cause like with y'all, they had only won like what 3 or 4 games the
Yeah.
year before. Yeah,
Something like that.
something like that.
And so we ended up winning 13 games. And then I got a phone call from Doobie Plaisance, who was at Loyola. So that was our league in college. I'd played against her my entire life. She coached Southern Bells. I played dominoes. And so she called me and she offered me a job at Loyola. And I was their first full-time assistant ever.
Wow.
Paid full-time assistant ever. And so I moved down here and we had a really good season. We won the conference championship. We made it to the Elite Eight of the national tournament, which was like major history for Loyola. They didn't even have scholarships. And then she got the call to go be the coach at Nichols. And so I went with her. And that was my first taste of coaching Division I. And we didn't have a ton of resources. Which nobody did back then to the magnitude that we have now.
Oh, it's a whole night and day difference.
We were still mailing tape. We were still printing maps to go travel.
MapQuest?
MapQuest. I mean, if you get lost, you got to roll down and be like, hey, homie, where's the gym? You know what I'm saying? Like, so, but it was great because it was a grind. And now I really appreciate the stuff that we have at Southern Miss because I'm like, man, this makes my job simpler.
Right.
It doesn't level the playing field because everybody has it, but it certainly makes life simpler. So I coached there for a year and then I was like, I'm not very good at this.
Right.
Why you felt like that?
I think I wasn't far enough removed from the game.
Oh.
I was so close to their age and we weren't very good that year. Worked really hard at signing some kids. Those kids ended up being a big part of how they won the conference championship. So I knew it would come because Doobie Plaisance is a winner. She knows how to win. She's always done that. She gave me my first job, so I'll forever be indebted to her for that. I just wasn't good at it. I wasn't locked in on it. I didn't know the grind. I felt like I was spinning my wheels. I felt like I had so much more to give, as far as like personally.
As a player.
That part, and like the college people, they didn't need you. You know, I had just left from being a special ed teacher with self-contained special ed kids who needed me to like walk them to where they were going to go or roll their chair. And so I just didn't feel fulfilled.
You didn't feel like you was making an impact.
I didn't. Now at Loyola, it was different because I felt like I was already a part of them.
Right.
Because I had played against them for so long.
It was a respect.
I knew what they did. I knew the process. I knew all those things. And going to Nichols, it was like brand new.
Right.
And it was the right decision. It was the right decision to get out of it. And I always worried, like, would I ever be able to get back in? That was a fear. And so, you know, I coached boys for 2 years at Greater Gentilly after it was a school we started.
I do want to ask you about that experience.
Greater Gentilly. Greater Gentilly.
First of all, what made you want to coach boys? Second of all, how was that experience coaching boys?
It was fun. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know that I wanted to coach boys necessarily, but we had another guy who had started the program. We all started the school together. It wasn't a school. So we all started the school together, and there was a lot of at-risk kids there.
Right.
And so we knew we needed to give them something that would keep them off the streets, give them something bigger than books, because, I mean, if we're being real, not everybody cares about the books, but if you give them something that motivates them to have to do well, And so this guy, Ben Pittman, actually started the basketball team, and then he ended up leaving. And so our principal at the time, Miss Beverly Johnson, she was like, "Oh, you got it." And I was like, "All right, bet." And let me tell you how much fun it was, because I will say, like, you didn't have to beg them to come in and want to compete.
Mm-hmm.
They just wanted to hoop. Like, I had to kick them out the gym. And that was a difference in them and girls for sure. And then being able to play above the rim.
That's exciting.
It changes the game. Like,
Changes the way you draw things up.
It changes the way you draw things up. Like, you can get so many more backdoor plays. You can, lobs. It was fun. And then being able to be challenged by the coach on the other side, like it was like a chess match.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot of fun. And let me tell you right now, I could call one of those boys right now, and they would be like, "What you need, coach?" 100%. And they know I would do the same for them. So it was beautiful.
So you didn't have a issue with them respecting you as a woman coming coach boys, because you might deal with that in certain places.
Right.
No, I think the beautiful thing about them, and Lord, it'll get me emotional, is that they were just grateful that someone was pouring into them and not saying, "You ain't gonna be shit, you ain't gonna make it, you ain't gonna do nothing with your life," because that's all they ever heard. And so I used that to my advantage. I didn't take advantage of where they were coming from. I didn't hold it over their head. I never took basketball away from them. I don't care what they did in school. I never felt like taking that away was going to solve the problem. And so I genuinely believe that I could have told them to sail a boat across Lake Pontchartrain and they would have done it, because it was just like, "Oh man, this lady actually thinks we can do this."
Correct.
And I got them gear. We got logoed gear and all this stuff. I mean, we looked like we weren't in the LHSA or anything, but we would go around and play teams that would play us. I mean, they felt like a brotherhood.
Yeah.
And, I really feel like they respected me because they could tell I loved them.
No doubt.
Now talk about the time at Nicole.
Oh God.
At Nicole days. Now
On the drive.
Yeah. Because now you was there with 6 seasons,
Mhm.
won 4 district championships, man. Talk about that time there in the fraternity of people that you met during that duration.
Those people are my family. Like, you literally can't tell me differently. They are my family. So I went there, and Coach Rock was walking me around, and I walked in and I was like, "This is where they lift weights?"
Right.
And so
This is the Ed Nicole.
in my mind, I was like, "Ain't no way these people are playing for state championships in basketball and football year after year, and this is where they train." And so at that point, I was like, I can't complain about that, and I can't use that as an excuse. When you go in and you're taking over a program, it's like, what are my excuses when we don't make it, right?
Right.
You already starting to try and figure out, like, why are we not going to win?
Exactly.
And so that was one thing. The second thing is Coach Rock, when he called me, he was like, "Hey, we got 3 6'3" girls." And in my mind, I'm like, that is a dream. You don't get that in high school.
Right.
Right.
Well, when I showed up, we didn't have nobody that could dribble and pass it to him. Like, he knew exactly what to tell me. But, I inherited some talent that, again, just had not been tapped into. And again, they wanted to be on a team. They wanted to wear all the gear. They wanted to rep Carr on their chest. But we made them really believe and understand what repping Carr on your chest really meant. And even though I didn't go there, when you walk those halls, it doesn't take but about 48 hours for you to understand, like, you don't just wear that on your chest. Like, it's branded in who you are. And so, I mean, every year we made it a little bit further. And then finally, we got some really good players that came in. Diamante Martinez was one of the 6'3" kids I inherited. And when she used to get the rebound, she'd take off running with it. She signed with Alabama.
Wow.
It's just one of those things where you see, and it was the Coach Domino in me. Like, if you could run, if you could jump, I could do something with you rather than just let you walk these hallways. And so I actually made her play volleyball because she would get in foul trouble every game trying to block shots. And she could block shots, but she didn't have the body control after the shot was blocked. So I was like, play volleyball and it'll teach you your timing, and it'll teach you how to go straight up.
Body control.
And all that. So, man, those years at Carr are 1,000% responsible for who I am right now as a person, as a coach, as a family member. When I tell you people there showed up for you, they showed up. And, you know, I remember going to our first playoff game, the bus was late, and you know me, I'm fired up. And Brock and Bryce were on the bus with me, and they were like, we're going to get you there. We're going to get you there. I tell you what, I wish the bus wouldn't have shown up because we had to go play Peabody. Oh, my gosh. Let me tell you, those girls are massive. They pressed us from the time we got off the bus to the time we left. I was like, goodness gracious. So we ended up playing in the state in state 2 years in a row. We actually played against Kalani Brown.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, our game plan when we went in was to stop her. And we did a really good job of that in the first half. But they had this kid that hadn't made shots ever, was hitting them off the backboard. And at that time, you're like, do we stick with our philosophy? And she's going to miss at some point. But we got so far down, we had to change it.
Yeah.
Right.
And so then, you know, we played catch up and we made a good game out of it. I mean, I don't guess you're supposed to beat Kalani Brown when you're in high school because we sure didn't.
You knew she was going to the WNBA.
You just knew.
You knew it.
You knew. And when she went to Baylor, I was like, you know, she was good in high school, but everybody knew her best basketball was ahead of her because, I mean, you can watch Kim Mulkey. She's the queen of coaching post players too. I mean, that's what she thrives on. That's what her career has been based on.
Yeah.
So we played her, and then the next year we make it. They didn't have the split back then.
Right.
So we ended up playing Ursuline, and that was Courtney Weber, who was at Florida State, and, you know.
Big old.
Yeah.
Courtney
Weber was a baller. If that kid didn't get hurt, my goodness. I mean, she ended up finishing at Mississippi State, and they had another kid that ended up going to Kansas. I mean, they were the real deal. They had Kennedy Jackson was a younger kid on their team at the time. I think I don't remember where she signed with originally, but I think she's at Boston College now. So, I mean, you know, there's so much put into winning a state championship, and I certainly don't, that is the ultimate prize. But I often wonder, like, had we won it, what would have happened?
You mean like with your career?
What?
Like what do you have left?
I don't know. I don't know that if the life experiences that I experienced through that, like my mom passed away unexpectedly, I had never planned to leave Carr, ever. I mean, the lady that I worked with at ULM, she offered me a job. She tells the story all the time. She offered me a job several times at McNeese, and they were winning conference championship after conference championship.
Right.
And I love the way she coaches and how she was recruiting. And I was just like, what you mean?
What you mean?
I'm good.
I'm good. I'm straight.
I'm
I'm
good
at home.
here. Just keep coming to recruit my players, you know. But no, I don't know that I would have ever left there had those things not happened in my personal life. Because that place was just it was
a culture.
It
Culture.
was something you cannot you cannot
you
put
can't
it
duplicate
into words for
You
people.
cannot duplicate it.
You can't.
You can't. I tell people, no.
That's why, and everybody's talking about, well, when's Bryce gonna? I'm like,
It's hard to leave.
because you keep saying, like, I stuck it out that last year, and when I say stuck it out, I don't mean any negative connotation whatsoever, but because of the family stuff I had going on, because I was like, I can't leave Destiny Collins and Ricky On and Shantae Simmons, and then the next group, I was like, I had to make an intentional effort not to be like latched on to them, or I wouldn't have been able to leave, and I had to at that point for my family's sake, you know. So
you had over a dozen kids in those 6 years go play college ball, and that's not common either.
Right.
In your mind, just what goes into when you get a kid, especially a girl, coming in as a freshman that might have a little talent, might be a little raw, but you did such a good job of teaching them the fundamentals, understanding, how to be disciplined and being committed to your process. How hard, or maybe it's not that hard, is it to get those kids to buy in, and then by the time they get to their senior year, they're ready to go off to college and flourish?
Well, I think Carr as a whole did a good job of we really all focused on shaping the entire student athlete. Like, we did community service. We did check grades. We did all the things the right way. And I think winning was a byproduct of those things. I also think winning is a culture. Like I was saying before the show started, when we were just talking, when the bell rang at Carr, you didn't see people running to leave. People were there working, grinding. And so I think the part that always bothered me, and it was a reputation of kids in our city, is, oh, they don't make it to the next level for grades, choices, whatever. And that was motivation, because I wanted them to have the same opportunity that I had, because people probably didn't think I was going to make it either,
Right.
And so I think I also had a really good group of parents.
That plays a big part now.
It's a huge part. It was probably not easy to hear me talk to their daughters the way I did sometimes. Listen, I didn't talk to everybody the same.
Right.
I tried to do what I thought would get your best out of you and your best out of you. But that was a challenge, but those parents, they trusted me so much with their kid, and that's what made it easier.
Right.
Because I didn't like being the bad guy. I love those children as if they were my own. I still do.
Right.
So getting them to believe in something bigger, like Destiny Collins, who hated school, who wasn't a great student. Then she goes off to college and she's sending me screenshots of her grades. I was like, I don't do your grade checks anymore, but it meant something to her. So we didn't want them to just get to college. We wanted them to finish. And I think it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. Is every time I turn on the TV, whether I'm watching college sports or whether I'm watching professional sports, there's a Edna Carr connection. So it's not anything I did. It's what that place did to people. It was a different pride, and it was like it was a standard.
Right.
It
It is a
was.
standard.
And there are kids who didn't make it and who are doing great things and successful in other
Correct.
ways. And that's another thing Carr did. Like, all these people who tell these kids, oh, you're not going to be a rapper, blah, 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 what you going to do? I have 3 or 4 students that are thriving in a rap career.
Kenneth brother.
Kenneth brother.
Jaquan is one of my players, the little one that played for a left-hander. I got another one that just sent me some clothing from her, that she's doing.
Right.
So I think Carr did a good job of identifying kids who were going to go to college and who weren't going to go to college, and we gave them the best of both worlds.
Because a lot of time you hear people say, if you're not going to college, then you ain't going to be shit.
You ain't gonna be shit.
Yep.
And that's just so far from the truth. Because fact of the matter is, college is not for everybody, and there's more than one way to skin a cat. It's more. It's so many different ways, especially in these days, to go be successful in this world.
And not just that, but to add to that, it was never designed to be for every kid coming out of high school.
No
Like
doubt.
the dynamic of, you gotta go to college. Hold on. It was never. Everyone has to go to high school or some form of high school sort of as a kid. When you're going through from being 4 to 18, that's what every kid's gonna go through. When you become 18, you finish high school, whatever age you finish, 17, 18, 19, whatever age you are, you got some choices to make.
Yep.
College ain't everybody's choice. It's advanced education, right?
Right.
For some of these kids, education wasn't it for them. They gotta have to find a different path.
Yep.
And it doesn't mean that they're gonna be unproductive or unsuccessful people.
No doubt.
This narrative that you could be unsuccessful because you didn't go to college or you didn't go to join the military. No, that ain't the truth at all. You can still be successful at something,
Yeah.
but you just gotta have pride in what you want to do.
Pride.
You gotta have pride and the passion in what you want to do. And that's just what about. But I do want to talk about this. We talk about women's basketball.
Okay. Love this part.
Yeah, because right now, over the past couple of seasons, you've had the opportunity to coach some college basketball, man. But college basketball, in terms of women, has just been ascending.
It's evolving.
It's evolving. It's at a soaring rate now, and that's due to the past couple of years where we had some exciting matchups that the whole world had a chance to witness. What is your take on why everybody's been tuning into women's college basketball, and what's some of the things that women's college basketball need to do to keep this thing going? Because it's been exciting.
Yeah, it's so exciting. It's challenging as it gets more exciting to keep up with the trend.
Yeah.
And to also stick with your philosophy, because that that Caitlin Clark will make you think like, should we be shooting this many threes a game? But if that's not your thing, that's not your thing. And I think that's what leads to your question is, I think a player like her has brought in a whole different group of viewers. I think basketball has been great. I don't think it was exciting for everyone because not everybody loves the traditional style like I do.
Right.
Just like Steph Curry did it in men's, those shots that he was shooting, that made people watch. That made little kids get out and try those,
Grown man.
I locked in a little bit differently to see the difference because to me, it had lost its excitement.
Yeah.
Kind of like to many people, our game had lost its excitement,
And I think part of that is because UConn had dominated for such a long period of time, and people just got tired of like, man, we know UConn gonna win it.
Yeah.
Everybody playing for second place.
Yeah, that's no lie. I think, with the transfer portal, I think with NIL and all that, I think it's really not leveled the playing field, but it's given people a different opportunity. And so it's way more fun to watch. And I don't cheer against any team. There's not a team in the country that you will find me cheering against. But when I watch it, I'm locked in, like cheering for this team.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
I'm not trying to point out, like UConn this or South Carolina. I don't want them to lose, but it's exciting watching other people win.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you think when you have a player that like an Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, Juju Watkins, when you got players like that who globally is very, very popular, you in the college game right now, how hard is it as a coach to deal with those egos and deal what comes with having those type of players in your program? Well, you still let them be themselves and be able to capitalize, because they capitalize NIL wise because of their popularity.
Yeah, and I haven't had to deal with that, so I can only speak from hypothetically speaking, or what I think. I think when you don't embrace who they are, it's really hard to coach them, number one. I think it takes a special coach to coach somebody like that, and understand what all goes into it. And I think Kim Mulkey was probably a perfect fit for coaching that team and understanding, like, it's basketball and it's business. And if you don't get on the train, you're going to miss out on coaching those kids. So it's like, do I compromise all these things I believe in, or do I evolve a little bit and still make the main thing the main thing?
Right.
Because I do think, we see all the TikToks and we see all the Instagram posts and all that, but Angel Reese is putting in work.
She's putting in work.
No.
She's putting in work.
No doubt.
Flage is putting in work.
Absolutely.
Those people are doing, I don't have to coach it. I don't get to coach it. But at the same time, it's like, it's so exciting. It's to see women's basketball players who have been put in a box for so long, modeling and the outfits that they wear at, the draft, like,
right.
That's just as exciting. It's bringing in more viewers.
Right.
And so we all wanted this problem.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted this problem, and now it's a problem. So what I have learned in this whole thing is people are going to complain just to complain. Like the WNBA comes out the other day and was like, we're going to be able to charter all these flights. Well, first of all, my goodness, can you see a 6'6" woman sitting in an aisle, like sitting in a regular airplane?
Cardoso.
They should have already been.
Should
doing
have already
it.
been this.
And then I see
But
someone.
the sponsorships coming now.
Yes, and so it's like if Angel Reese didn't give up some of her time, or if Caitlin Clark didn't give up some of her time, and this is all on the backs of the traditional old school players, the Cheryl Swoops and all them. They have to be excited to see the foundation that they laid finally come into fruition. You know, and so, but then you see someone saying, "Oh, they can fly on charter, but they can't raise their salaries." I'm sorry, but if you ask the players if they need to fly charter, I can guarantee you that they're like, thank you.
Thank you.
You know,
Thank
they're
you.
not complaining about
Baby
it.
steps, man.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
You know, you can't. Rome wasn't built in a day, and I think it's trending in the right direction. And if people will continue to advocate more than tear it down, I mean,
It's breaking barriers and it's breaking bounds, and I'm excited about it. But I'm also excited about the fact that it's the new talent coming through.
Yeah.
Like the Juju Watkins, and you're like, man, it's gonna be exciting to watch her.
I can't wait to watch the freshman from South Carolina, number 12.
The 12. I know you're talking about.
I'm
man.
too. She's amazing.
The name by on the back of my hand. I can't remember, but people like that, it's gonna be an exciting time to watch college basketball. What's your response to this?
Oh gosh.
Because, you know, the OGs is like, they don't want to give this new generation. They probably like, you know, Shaq always got something to say. Charles Barkley always got something to say about the new generation. They give them props, but they always say stuff like, they couldn't play in our generation. What's your response to Deanna Taurasi saying that Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark gonna be in for a rude awakening because they're gonna be going against grown women? She basically was saying she don't think they gonna do that good in the WNBA.
Well,
That's what I took from it.
I didn't take that from it. I think that no matter what she says, it's going to be perceived that way because of the way she plays. There is most definitely an initiation process. You know, there's definitely a transition. I don't think anybody in their right mind hasn't questioned how they would transition. Nobody said they wouldn't transition. It would just be like, how fast are they going to transition? The physicality of the game alone, that's grown women. It doesn't matter how good you are. That is grown women. And I mean,
It's different.
and the scheming and everything, everybody out there is a pro.
Right.
So you can't lock in on one player because if you do, this one over here, it can score or, you know, so I don't think she meant it to sound as abrasive as it sounded.
It came off as like that way.
Yeah, I think, you know, Caitlin Clark just said it herself about, oh, the physicality of this game is so much different. That's the hardest transition. The refs don't call it all the time. So
Right.
she basically said the same thing Diana said. It was just Taurasi said it.
Right.
Right.
And so I do think that, and I'm somewhere in the middle of the old heads and the newbies. Like, man, those people did so much to make a way for the people who are able to reap the benefits of it now. Like, can you imagine how they must feel that they didn't get NIL and they didn't get
Of course.
paid? And
Of course.
I didn't think about that.
I get it. But at
Right.
the same time, it is what it is.
Have social media like this
Yeah.
either.
No,
No matter.
so-
You in your era.
right. You're born
I'ma say
in
it.
the wrong era.
I'm saying,
There you go.
you're born in the wrong era.
So I get the
How you think Reggie Bush feel?
right.
In his era. But I'm just using that as an example.
And that whole thing that still drives me crazy.
Happy got his trophy back.
Like receiving money, okay, it's against the rules, but it did not have anything to do with how good he performed inside those lines.
Period. And my thing is this: you can't. For the people who watched it in that time when you was watching, you're not about to change my mind. I saw what I saw. Like you think I'm gonna just take it away. I still saw it.
Right.
I still saw it
He's
happen.
Still the person.
He's
with
still
the
the
hard
person
work.
he was. Like you can't race the games. I saw the games.
I mean, my goodness, if he was taking like performance enhancing
Yeah,
drugs,
yeah.
okay, I get that. But like
Money?
money?
We're not gonna do that.
Come on now.
But here's my thing, because it's crazy, right? Donnie Taurasi is a OG, what we call an old head. Now, I remember Taurasi at UConn.
Dog.
A dog.
Lord.
A dog, right? I remember
I
Super.
thought she was a dude for a while. Like, I'm like, bro, because girls not playing like
that. She was a dog.
She used to roll them sleeves up.
Yeah.
Like,
the long shorts.
Yes,
right.
Still
yes.
ripping the long shorts.
Yeah. I see, like, it's funny because I remember, because I'm old enough to remember. I remember the Cynthia Coopers. I remember the Cheryl Swoops.
Tamika Holslaw.
Yes.
Maya Moore.
I'm going way back. I'm talking
Tina
about
Thompson, Lisa Leslie,
Lisa
Lisa Lobo.
Witherspoon, Rebecca Lobo for the Liberty. I'm happy to remember that. So to me, my old heads is consistently that era, that 90s era. But when we start talking about Taurasi and people of that era, they becoming old heads. I'm like,
It's crazy, right?
I'm like, is Candace Parker old head now?
Now,
Like,
Candace Parker be giving them their props.
yeah.
She be giving them their props.
So,
I ain't gonna lie.
but so it's funny how we went from this older era to now this era here where people really watch them and now you get into this new wave and it's like, okay, this is like generation 3 of now we're starting to get the Elena Boston, we're getting the Caitlin Clark, we're getting the Angel Reese, we're getting this new group of WNBA stars. So I'm so excited to see how that new group meshes with some of those older players who still are playing, but that towards the end of then you got the ones in the middle like your Breanna Stewart's, and your Joel on Lords. So she's a dog. Or she's a dog.
And now her and Scott Digg together. Wow.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's gonna be funny to see how it's
I'm glad to see it because over these last 2 years, even in my area, man, I've seen so many girls training now more than ever
basketball's
before.
gotten better.
Yeah, because they watching that on TV, and
not to mention the Aces. Sorry about the Aces. You know, and I don't want to leave y'all. Y'all the 2-time defending champs. I don't want to leave y'all out of it.
Right. But it's inspiring this generation for sure, the younger generation, to want to get in the gym, and because they saying, I want to be the next Juju.
Yeah.
But
I want to be the next Caitlin Clark.
And the thing is, I think that for me is, you're gonna get more teams, and I think the more teams create more opportunities for more kids.
For sure.
More girls.
We don't need that happen. What happened to your girl from Baylor? They got to go overseas to go make money.
No.
Yeah.
They can make it. They should be able to make it right.
They should be able to make it right here, and I think having more franchises as the game starts to continue, because it looks like more girls are training, more girls are getting better. And I think the game has always been good, but I think the viewership is starting to come around.
Yeah, they had more viewers for the girls' national championship than the boys.
Of course, I know. I was one of those viewers.
Thank you. No, but that's why I don't really I love the beef. I really do. It brings me back to when I was growing up and everybody hated the Detroit Pistons, and but that's what makes people want to watch it. Everybody's going to pick a side. That's what we do naturally as humans.
Right.
And whatever side, and then it's going to create conversation. And I don't always love the comparisons. I can't stand the GOAT comparisons and all this because I don't think it's comparable. But at least we're talking about it.
Yep.
And to me, whether you're talking about it positively or negatively,
you're
talking about it. And eventually you're going to say something positive about it. Even the most critical people in the world are going to find something positive, and that's what I believe we can build on. I really do.
Bad publicity, better than no publicity.
Thank you.
Well, what? Ask swimmers.
I'm telling you. Look, when Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark and all these people was getting all that flack when she was doing this last shit, and everybody was like, why they doing? I'm like, bro, that's bringing awareness and attention to women's basketball.
Right.
Now, everybody won't see Angel Reese. I remember going to an LSU football game, and she walks in. Bro, you would have thought this was like Elvis. Beyonce walking in.
Odell Beckham effect.
Yeah, because everybody's trying to take a picture. She got security in front of her. I mean, that's what happens when you get to talking about the game, whether it's bad or good. She has benefited from it for sure. For damn sure.
Oh, she's been exciting for her time and duration of college basketball. I think college basketball is indebted to some portion to Angel Reese and what Caitlin has done. Look,
let's not make no mistake. LSU does a great job of branding their athletes.
Yeah.
Gymnastics, girls basketball, football, baseball. They just do a great job of branding
their
athletes and getting the whole nation on board to to watch them.
Yeah, they got another player coming up.
Yeah.
I think the last name Williams. Just stay
Yeah.
tuned. Yeah.
She's gonna be all right.
Yeah, I think so.
Tune.
She's gonna be all right.
Yeah, I think so.
Uh,
Jess, man, talk about when you're looking at a kid that you want to recruit.
Mhm.
What's some of the things that you and your head coach and some of the people on y'all staff, when y'all evaluating, what has to fit the criteria for somebody to be on y'all board for y'all to possibly want them to be a part of that Southern Miss Go to Eagle program?
Well, talent obviously gets you on our board. And then what moves you up our board is a fit. I think that's what, people call me all the time, hey, I got this player. And I'm like, yeah, she's really good. She's awesome. She doesn't fit what we do, and I think when you're an assistant coach, for sure, and this is why I love being an assistant coach, because I don't have an issue with this. It's not about what I think is good. It's about what fits what my head coach's philosophy is. And so, like I said, we point out talent. We're like, man, this kid can run. We like to press. So a natural athlete is going to make our board. And then we hope you have a gift. We hope you can finish around the rim or, can hit a mid-range, because we shoot a lot of mid-range. Dom Davis is a mid-range queen.
Well, no.
So all these people who are getting away from the mid-range game, I'm like, so you're not going to sign a Dom Davis?
Crazy.
So anyway, that's, to me, talent gets you on the board. A fit keeps you on the board, and then we dive deeper. It's relationships. It's how we communicate with them. Will we be able to coach them at a high level? How will they respond? How has their coaching been? So I'm watching their high school coaches. I'm seeing how they coach them. I'm seeing how they respond to that coaching. I'm watching their parents in the stands, because once you get to college, you deal less and less with the parent. But now social media has given them, if you don't accept a conversation with the parent, you're going to read it on social media. So
Correct.
It's like, which one do I do? Which thankfully I haven't ran into that much in my career. Everywhere I've been, we've pretty much had an open door policy with parents to a degree. So, I mean, talent's going to always, in my opinion, talent wins at the end of the day. It wins the battle on how far you get up that board.
Mhm.
And you'll make concessions for kids. My gift is working with kids who might not, everybody else can't work with them.
Right.
They might talk back every now and then, or they might be perceived as disrespectful, or they might have a little bad body language. But when you get to know them in the recruiting process, you kind of know, like, can I help them with that? Are they going to let me help them with that?
Right.
So, and then our head coach, she's a queen of taking a risk on a kid. So a kid that might not make it somewhere else can make it at Southern Miss under Coach McNellis. So I definitely think it depends on where you are, what you look for. But I think consistently most coaches would say talent gets you on the board, and then a fit for our program is what keeps you there and moves you up.
Isn't it kind of hard to really evaluate a kid in high school because they might be playing out of position?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to go out and see if they playing AAU, either circuit ball or whether they're not playing circuit ball, to see if they can play their natural position that will transition to college.
Mm-hmm.
How you?
That is one of the more difficult parts. Like we've signed a kid that played a 5 in high school because of her size. Well, she won't be that big for us. Now, she could still play a 5 in our league because she's got great speed. So, I mean, what she can't do in size and strength, she can definitely use her feet to get around people. So it's definitely looking at their skill set and evaluating what they do when they don't have the ball. We've signed people just because they can rebound. Like, that gets you a scholarship. People talk about defense wins championships. No, rebounding wins championships.
Christian Thompson got $70 million because he could rebound a basketball.
Because you can rebound basketball. So, yeah, I don't think you're wrong. It is difficult at times. But when you're looking more on their skill set versus their position, you kind of know what you can do with them.
Gotcha.
And then, I mean, you have to have a lot of faith in your strength and conditioning program sometimes too, which we do. So I'm like, all right, if we get this kid, can our strength and conditioning get her in shape, or because we play back to the basket post.
Right.
And so you might take a chance on a kid that somebody else wouldn't.
Right. That might be
because our strength and conditioning is going to get them right.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I saw you made a post, man. I think it was your brother. He had just got married or something.
Mm-hmm.
And man, your caption, I thought it was one of the best captions I ever seen. And you've been talking about, you said family a whole bunch of times since we've been talking on this podcast. And your caption said, "I got the biggest signees I've gotten so far. These 4 little boys are official. Meet the Barbers. Coach is a pretty cool name, but nothing tops being an aunt. My heart is full." Talk about how much family means to you, and how those 3 little boys and your brother, and not just them, but your entire immediate family, man, how much is meant to you, you know, especially with your coaching journey and how much you're on the road and how busy you are.
Well, it's ironic because, you know, one of my really good friends that I consider a sister just hit me up the other day. I gave a speech at my old high school, and she hit me up after, and she was like, "Man, it takes a really, you know, strong person to fill your mom's shoes." And so, I really wasn't given an option because my mom was definitely the alpha female of our family. You know, she never said no. So I feel like I can barely say no to people when they need something. So it's a privilege, though, that my phone rings and people need you or whatever. But to speak specifically to that, yeah, so a lot of people might not know, but my brother struggled with addiction for about 15 years. And seeing him, he has a biological daughter, Ansley, and he hasn't been able to have a close relationship with her because of the shenanigans. He takes full responsibility for it, and, you know, the Lord will work that out in his time.
Yeah.
Right.
But seeing him being gifted the opportunity to be a dad, because in my opinion, we had the best dad for us.
Right.
You know, and seeing him be able to do that after, I don't want to say being robbed from it, because he is a product of his own choices. But being able to give him that opportunity again, and you know, everybody knows how I am. Those kids don't look like us. You know, they're biracial, and having them carry on our last name now because they're officially adopted, it just means so much more, because that's truly what my family has always looked like. Our family's always been pull up a chair, there's no questions asked, build a longer table. You know, my teammates were in my house more than me. My mom never cooked enough for 4 people. She cooked, you know, she cooked for everybody. And so seeing them be the Barbers is what my mom and dad always envisioned. And now we have 4 little boys that can give us that, you know, on a much bigger. So yeah, family is definitely everything. And it's not just my blood family. It is 100%, you know, I say my car family. I got this family, like my teammates. Like I say sis and bro, I like really mean that.
Nah, right, yeah.
Like I really mean that. If I don't mess with you like that, I don't say that.
No, I don't know.
And so, yeah, family is everything. And, man, thank you for pointing out. I didn't know what you was going to say on me. I post a lot of stuff on there. I got a little nervous, but I saw you get a little, you know, sentimental. So
Yeah. Got a little soft side.
I was like, I'm about to start sweating in here.
Nah, I like to bring stuff like that up, you know, about family, because I know a lot of coaches, and I know how it can get when you're so committed to your career and you're trying to do the best at what you do, and college coaching gets taxing.
It does. I feel a certain responsibility, and I'm not married. I'm 41 years old. I'm not married, by the way. But I'm so fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like people get married when they're missing something. And listen, everybody gets married for different reasons.
No doubt.
Correct. No
But I do. I feel like it supplements people in many ways, and that's what it should be. It's a partnership. It's all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why I struggle so much to commit to something like that, because I feel so fulfilled by what I already have. And so it's really difficult for me, and in relationships that I've been with in the past, it's really difficult for me to differentiate.
It too.
Like what this love is and what this love is, because I can't, like your husband's supposed to come first. And I'm like, okay, that's awesome. But if this kid needed me right now,
Right.
they're 100%, I'm going to go. And I guess when you find the person that you're supposed to be with, they
They
understand.
understand that.
But at the same time, it's difficult for me to overextend myself in a relationship, a romantic relationship, because I'm so invested in these other relationships that I'm like, okay, if I do that, I'm going to compromise this one. And, I know it probably should be a better balance, but at this point in my life at 41, I'm fulfilled. And I think that's what our goal is, right?
Yep.
I appreciate that perspective. Do you think when coaches are in their profession, the time management, you think that's the hardest part of it all, especially like when you're trying to find a meet?
Yeah, I do. I think it's important to have a work-life balance. I do. I've worked with people that I know now, if they had to do it over again, they would have a better work-life balance. I think I've been privileged enough to always work with people that had that. And another privilege that I've had is I get to work with people that I consider friends. And so even when I'm working and we're grinding and we're burning the midnight oil, I'm doing it with my people. So I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything.
Right.
And so then also having family that understands what you've signed up for, instead of like, oh, you're going to be late again, then that makes you feel bad. And then that makes me feel like I'm making a choice between you
In this.
and my career.
Yep.
And so for me, I'm very career driven because I saw my parents sacrifice so much, and my brother sacrifice so much for me to be able to play travel ball when travel ball wasn't a thing everybody got to do.
Right.
And so, my parents sacrificed, time with their family, time with Jonathan. And so I feel a responsibility to live this to the best of my ability for as long as I can, and to give back to my parents, to give back to my brother, and to give back to, my community, because everybody poured into me to be able to do this.
To be able to do this.
Right.
And like, my thing is, and I like to ask that to college coaches, because I've been divorced 6 years now, and I just feel like my mama asks me this all the time. You ain't found nobody yet, you ain't found nobody yet. And I know we're in two different worlds. Like, you coaching. I do coach middle school basketball, but I'm more on the media side, and I have a lot going on. And I just feel like women that I've came across in these 6 years, they don't understand my world. Can you kind of relate to that? They just don't understand. Like you just said, oh, you gonna be late again? Man, you don't understand. Like, I had to spend this last 15 minutes with this recruiting his mama. I'm trying to get this kid. It's certain things that come with this career.
Yeah, I do. I think everybody, and this is what I noticed when I was growing up, everybody wants to date a coach because that's cool. Coaches' wives, coaches' husband, coaches, and it's even, and I don't like to, bring up, our sex, but at the same time, it's like a man taking a backseat to my career is just not common where I come from.
Right.
Correct.
So
it's okay.
it's like,
it's fair to say.
While they're raising the kids and cooking the meals and all that, like, you got to find somebody that really understands that. And, I've been blessed with people I've been in relationships with too, to a degree, but for myself, I feel selfish. So I don't think everybody understands you. Like, I remember when you were married and you had the kids and you were grinding, and for anybody trying to make it, it doesn't matter if you're coaching, it doesn't matter if you're in media, it doesn't matter if you're running a podcast, it doesn't matter if you're owning a burger joint. If you don't work, it will not work. You have to put in the work. And so I think finding someone that doesn't understand
Our world.
It like, hey, we're not going to have anything if we don't work.
Right.
And like, I don't even care about the money.
See this?
It's the grind.
It's the grind.
Passion.
It's the love.
I love
of
waking up doing this.
Yes.
Me
if
too.
you take this from me, You might well take the breath out of my body. T. Howard said that.
Yeah. Yep. He said that.
Yeah, listen, T. Howard is the.
He literally sat right there and said this.
I have no doubt he did, because that sucker used to be at there all hours, and then he'd be the first one in the morning. You knew on Fridays when he was coming up, the music was popping, like
that bounce music.
And that's the thing, is finding someone who understands your grind. It's not your job, because it doesn't matter if you switch from this job. It's in you. It's who you are. It doesn't matter what you're going to do. You're going to grind because you want whatever you're going to do to be the best.
Yep.
And so I don't know a job that I wouldn't be like this in.
Right.
You know, like I can't imagine like I'm constantly, even as a college coach, knowing I don't have any time, trying to think about my next business adventure. Like, what could I do to make money, or what could I do to challenge myself, or what could I do to make my community better? Like, what contributions could I make? And so it's hard. Everybody says they want to date it because, you know, sports is the cool thing and bring everybody around, but
it's a challenge.
When you're not at home every night, or you're not tucking the kids in bed, then, oh, you a bad dad. Mm-hmm. No, I'm not a bad dad. I'm out grinding for my kids.
I'm out grinding.
So if we could change the perspective, you know, on how we say things, or then our kids wouldn't be like, oh, dad ain't here. They'd be like, oh, dad's out working so we can get them new shoes, or, you know.
Right.
I think a big part of it too, like I know my daughter is 12 and my son is 14. I try to include them in a lot of things I have going on. Like I bring them to games with me. I do a lot of different things with them that's included in my career too.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of it too.
Mm-hmm.
It don't allow them to be separate. It allows you to be involved and be active, so they can find out, oh, so daddy is doing things with me. So now I get to see what daddy is doing, what he's got going on. So they don't feel excluded. They can find a way they can contribute and help. So in the days that you are grinding, they understand how that looks versus them being so disclosed to it, not being available to it. They don't see what's going on. They don't understand why. So in their mind, all they think about is what they want and why I want it. But my parent is not here, and they don't understand it. So it's just, I can understand that. Trust me, it's a
fine line.
It's a fine line. Finding somebody who understands is a challenge, because especially when sometimes you have two different occupations.
Yes.
It's just more difficult, because at the end of the day, their occupation demands this and your occupation demands this, and the grinds are not, they may not have similar parallels of how they grind. Their grind might be from 7 to 4, 8 to 5, and they could literally.
That's common in this country.
9
to 5.
Yeah, so soon that 5 comes.
Not a 9 to 5.
Correct.
No.
So soon that comes, right? They could mentally click it off, right? But when you're a coach, you just don't click it off because the gym closed. Right? That's not how that works. Oh, practice is over. Let me. So
that's when the real work actually.
That's when the real work's about to start, right? And so
now the kids are out of school, and now it's my job to be in constant communication with them. So, you know, and I won't give us an excuse. It's not all the other people's fault. I do think when you're grinding and when you're working a job that doesn't have a time clock, you have to be really intentional about setting aside time for your loved ones, including your kids, or a date night. I hate that phrase. It really, it just, I hate it. But you do have to, I do think in any relationship or, you know, companionship, you have to be more intentional about setting aside a time, because we are in a different world than I grew up watching my parents date and do marriage. Like, everybody needs validation. Everybody needs affirmation. It's like, you know, we're selfies and filters and all these things. So those things aren't just happening. People need to feel good about themselves. And so
for other people
sometimes too.
Yeah.
So I do think we know that. And so if we're going to date, or if we're going to land a recruit, we got to meet them where they are.
Yep.
I got to watch TV shows. I was like, man, I'm watching TV shows. I don't even watch TV like that. Just so I can have a conversation with them. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Snapchat. I'm like,
where they at?
Meet them where they are.
Right. Y'all, this past season, I know the season didn't go how you wanted to go. Your fan is 18 and 13, right?
No, we it was something. I'm not good at this, but
Yeah,
we
y'all
had
played
at least
20,
21.
20,
Yes.
Yeah, I know y'all lost in the quarterfinals to James Madison.
No, at the conference tournament we
conference
did, yes.
Yeah.
And then we went to the NIT. Yeah.
Right. And I know Dominique Davis, that was y'all stud. How you feel about the future of Southern Miss basketball? And I know you said y'all got 4 freshmen coming in.
Yes.
4 freshmen coming in. Y'all got a pretty good veteran group coming back.
Yeah, we do. We have Jacoria Bracey coming back and Malia Grayson. Those kids are both from Mississippi, and when I say that, it's like us talking about Louisiana kids. You know, those kids play for their state. Malia Grayson's from Hattiesburg. Jacoria's from Drew, Mississippi. We got a couple other kids coming back that really gave us some really good minutes last year, and then we have a really good shooter from Florida. We got a great core coming back. Now, Dom Davis is not replaceable.
Mm-hmm.
We'd be silly to sit here and talk about replacing her. But I think Coach McNellis does a phenomenal job of putting the right pieces in the right places and getting the most out of every piece that she has, including her coaches. I mean, she's been successful for so long, So I think Southern Miss is a well-oiled machine, but we still got to do the work. And that's the grind every day. And I keep using that word, grind. It's grit at Southern Miss. Our practices, man, when I first got there, I was like, dang, this is why y'all are so good. They're like competing. They're like knocking each other's heads off. They're like really hooping. And so her practices are very intense. You never know how you're going to do because you don't know. I like all these preseason predictions and stuff.
Right.
You never know what pieces are going to be ready in November.
Right.
When it comes time to tip off. Our league is really good.
Yep.
James Madison is great. Troy has landed some really good kids out of the portal there and out of JUCO. They're always going to be good. Everybody in our league is good. There's not a team in our league that you show up and know that you got a dub. Right. Not one.
What happened? Y'all went on a 7-game losing streak. Y'all started off with 8-0, 9-0, something like that. Then y'all lost 7 straight.
We did. I don't know what happened.
I don't know what happened.
If I did, we would not have lost.
But then y'all got back on track.
We did. We were clicking on all cylinders, and we beat Ole Miss at home. And then now we designed our former associate head coach designed our schedule to to get harder as it went on. So we didn't lose any bad teams. Right. We lost to Florida Gulf Coast. We lost to Cleveland State. I don't even remember who else we lost to. I try not to think about it. We lost to Coastal Carolina. That was one that we should not have lost that game. That was our first conference game. We played on the road. I don't think we showed up like thinking we were going to win, but we certainly didn't show up not to lose.
That was flat.
We were so bad that game. And then when I went back, it was actually my scout too. When we went back and watched it, I was like, oh my gosh. So then that's who we played in the second round of the conference tournament. So I don't think I slept. I was like, we cannot let these people beat us again, And so we put together a really good game plan. Our kids came out, and that's how I knew. I was like, we should have never lost that game.
Right.
Because we dominated that game. But
how long you was on crutches, man, after the August 8th?
I was waiting for this part to come.
Man. I was worried about you. You was under the power.
Listen, I immediately, when that happened, went back to my car days. Because instinctually, if you see something like that about to happen as an adult, as a behavior interventionist, as a coach,
protect my players.
Yeah.
Especially, and listen, I love all of our players, but she slung my girl Dom, and I was like, ain't no way.
Ain't no way.
Ain't no way. And then it happened right in front of our bench. So heels and a dress. Gee, I ain't wore heels or a dress since. So
what did you hurt, your leg or your ankle?
my knee. Yes, and it crossing that sucker. I'm glad you mentioned it so I could stretch it out. No, I was on crutches for I probably should have been on them a little longer, but I'm hard-headed, and we got steps that lead to the court. So I was on the crutches for like a week, and then I was in a brace for
what, you hyperextended?
a month. Well, I still didn't get an MRI because I don't really want to know. But
That's not the same knee you tore.
yes, it
Dang.
is. And so it's not ACL, I know that, but what we've concluded is that I had a strained MCL, which is still very sensitive to touch, and that I might have a little tear in my meniscus. But
Tough.
I'm
41. She's still tough.
All that to avoid the MRI. The
I am-
MRIs are dangerous, man. Listen, I'm so scared of them things.
Well, I'm not afraid of the MRI. I'm fine with that. I don't want the results because then it's like, what do you do with it? I either sit around and be like, oh my God, I have a torn meniscus, or I get it fixed. And both of those are terrible.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to pretend like it didn't
Didn't
happen.
happen.
And I'm going to chalk it up to old age. I was waiting to see if you were going to ask me that.
Oh my God.
I had to.
I love it, man. Hey, it's a part of it. And you know what was beautiful about that whole thing?
I won the
is
game.
We won that game without a lot of
7
players. And 3 of them who hadn't played. Those kids fought. They were not going to be denied that game. And then the next week we had to go to Arkansas State and play. And the kid that was involved in the altercation on our bench, she literally, I was standing outside about to get on the bus, and she came out and she walked way out of her way and came and apologized. And I was like, you know what? That was all of us. We were all a part of that. But you don't see kids doing that anymore.
No.
And so for her to apologize, I mean, it went a long way. And I hope she learns from it. I hope our kids learn from it. You know, it
could have been worse.
It could have been really bad.
Been brutal.
It could have been really bad.
Yeah.
It was bad, but it could have been horrible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no doubt. Before we get into Jess's favorites, man, I want to do a mental health check, man. I know I reached out to you. It was like about a week or 2 ago. I know you're in the hospital visiting your dad. You brought him some Popeyes.
yeah, it sure did. That
ballers.
cures everything.
Yeah.
I did. Oh, thank you, man. Yeah. So he had gotten in an accident after that string of bad weather, gone through those tornadoes and stuff, and a tree had fallen on him, broke his hip. And you know, that's just never a phone call you want to get after I lost my mom unexpectedly.
Yep.
So just the whirlwind of like it sends you back, you know, to that
Right.
phone call. And so he's good. They told him you can't kill bad grass, you know. He ain't going nowhere. He's healing up. He's healing well. I got to visit with him last Sunday. He's walking again. He's down to 1 crutch, but he's like me. I asked him, I was like, hey, how's physical therapy going? They coming in? He's like, oh no, I'm doing it myself. I was like, what, bro? You have a broken hip. Like it's not your toe. Like you don't get to do your own physical therapy, but
Toughness just ain't good. Just going y'all family.
Running the family.
it does. It really
Walk-
does.
Meet the Barbers.
Meet the barber. I mean, my brother was probably
Don't worry about Meet the Grams. Just meet the Barbers.
one of the, I mean, y'all, I'm not kidding you. Like, if it weren't for toughness, there's no, and the Lord, obviously, but there's no way my brother would be alive. The crazy stuff he put himself through. That's who you need on this podcast. But you have to have it.
He probably got a journey, huh?
Oh my God, his story is absolutely, it is amazing. Like he defied death so many times. And I used to tell him all the time, like, dude, if you'll just like chill, God's got something big in store for you.
Mhm.
If you just chill for a minute. And now he's he's getting to be a dad again. He's just landed another great job,
That's what's up.
a beautiful wife. I mean, all the things that
That a
he
man can
wanted.
ask for,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's
All
got
you
it.
do is, put himself on ice.
No doubt.
He's got it.
Before we end the podcast, we gotta get into Jess's favorites. Here we
Oh,
go.
gosh.
Here we go. Favorite hooper all time, no matter what level.
Sue Bird.
Super. I like that one.
You
Pokey Chapman talk about her on the
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah, and thanks for letting me follow Pokey Chapman as the only other female on here. I think she probably has small feet, but she probably got big shoes to fill.
She did.
Favorite coach all time that had the most impact on you. I think I probably know
Whew.
this, just going out this podcast.
Well, Coach Charlie Domino is definitely impactful, but my high school coach, Regina Meyercheck, is the reason I went to Franklinton. And she poured into me in a much bigger way. She taught me how to be a coach, a head coach. You know, she used to hang up the signs on the gym, you know, beat the Warhawks or beat whomever, whatever it was you were doing. You know, she did all the things that a head coach does that an AAU coach don't get to do with you. So she's still impactful in my life. The other day she sent me something through text, and then I didn't tell her I was doing the speech at the banquet, and she was like, why didn't you tell me? I'm like, I didn't think to tell you that I was speaking. Like, so she's very, very, very impactful.
Favorite movie all time?
Oh, A League of Their Own.
That's a good one.
It's a good one.
You're going to go watch it tonight. That's one movie when you see it on TV, you can't change.
Baseball.
Friday baseball.
Baseball.
Listen, when he was going find the players, that's my favorite part of the movie. Like, how did he get all them good girls to come play for him? He was an asshole.
Listen,
Tom Hanks was an asshole.
He was.
God damn. But at the end, he got vulnerable.
There
Got
you
vulnerable.
go.
Got
There you
vulnerable.
go. It always
Got in
makes
touch
us.
with his feminine side. Oh, I forgot about that. That's a great movie.
It is. You cannot change. You can't change the channel when it's on.
No.
You gotta
Hell
watch it.
no. Hell no. Yeah, that's a good one. Favorite sneaker all time?
Oh, Jordan ones.
Oh.
Maybe you still need to start wearing the ones instead of the heels now.
Well, I can't because we're Adidas.
Oh.
But
Get the man there was.
yeah.
Ant-Man.
He the man right now. Right? Get the man there.
My go-to Adidas is them old Run DMCs, the Shelter.
Okay, Chateaus?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Got them Stan Smiths.
And I do love a Stan Smith. I do. So
Gotcha. Favorite artist all time?
ooh,
Music artist.
I know what you meant. It's a tough one. Of all time, it's got to be Prince.
Ooh.
Talk about a real musician.
Dang.
Talk about a real musician. Prince.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, I could listen to the music over and over and over, no matter what the day brings. If I'm going like more, I mean, I'm a Rihanna versus Beyonce. I love Rihanna.
Ray Ray?
I love her.
Diamonds and Pearls.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite Prince songs. Favorite comedian all time?
Oh gosh. Probably Ellen DeGeneres.
What's that?
Ellen?
Oh my god.
She from Metairie.
Ellen. Okay.
From Metairie?
Okay.
From Grace King?
Grace King? Grace King?
You know she said Ellender.
No.
Oh no, Ellen
Ellen.
DeGeneres.
Ellen.
She's good, and
Ellen's definitely funny.
yeah.
Jefferson Parish, stand up.
Yeah.
Yeah, first of all, she's from Louisiana,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm always going to be partial. And then she makes me laugh talking about like real stuff. Like I've sat down and listened to her stuff, and I think she just has such a joy for life.
And she's that like sarcasm funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she makes you like, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. She
Did she
makes me
just say
think,
it?
yeah. I could listen to her stand up all the time, but I mean, the Saturday Night Live back in the day with the Gap Girl skit, I could probably watch with Chris Farley and David Spade and all them.
Shouts out to Chris Farley, man.
Yeah.
He's a vet, and rest in peace. He's been, just passed for some time now. But man, Chris Farley don't get his flowers, man.
No, he doesn't.
And you
He
just brought it
doesn't.
back to my mind because I forgot about Chris Farley.
Yeah.
Like fat man in a skinny coat. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're my age and you don't reference them, then I think that's sinful. But so,
Favorite place to visit?
New Orleans,
No.
100%. I mean,
All the traveling you've done?
I'm telling you, it's the place that, like, when I was coming across the bridge and I saw the buildings today, it just does something to my soul. It does. It has the best food. It has the best culture. People don't look at other people when they walk in and they look different. They just like, okay, that's normal here. I mean, I visited Boston. It's cool. California, LA. I've been to San Francisco. I've been all those places, but nothing is better than New Orleans to me.
That's a first. That's a first.
Well, you've probably interviewed a lot of people who live here, and I respect that. You don't truly value it until you move away.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point.
And I tell you, you can put all the Tonys on the food. You can do all. It's
Thank you,
not
yeah.
the same. When someone comes up and says, "What can I get you, baby?" Ain't nobody saying that to you nowhere else. They're like, "Can I help you?"
Yeah.
It's the whole.
What you want, baby?
It's the whole vibe. It's not.
I
Just,
heard you.
Yeah. How's your mom and them when they coming back in?
It's personable.
Yeah. New Orleans is 100% my most favorite place to visit.
Ask it.
Favorite food?
You already know. When I was at Carr, I would compromise and eat Chubby's chicken,
Oh,
but it's
Chubby's.
1,000% Popeyes.
Popeyes for the ballers.
Popeye, and not chicken strips. It's the chicken.
Gotcha.
Fried
Spicy or
chicken.
mild?
Oh, spicy.
Oh yeah, definitely gotta have spicy.
And then don't make me choose between the sides. It depends on the day.
Since they done added the macaroni,
I don't
didn't it
eat
be
that.
burnt on the top a little bit?
Yeah.
Man, I gotta get that macaroni. It used to be the red beans. Now
Yeah. And then when they got rid of the dirty rice during COVID, I was like, what you
they
mean?
got rid of the green beans too.
Yeah, they did.
But I'm like, what does dirty rice got to do with COVID? You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I understand we can't come in. We can't come in and order, but like, what's the dirty rice got to do with
Yeah,
COVID?
when Popeyes had that pandemic over spicy chicken sandwiches.
The sandwiches? Yeah.
Yeah.
And the beef on who created them or Chick-fil-A. I'm like, oh, Lord.
No one liked them spicy chicken sandwiches, but it was out.
Toughest player you ever had to play against. Toughest player you ever had to coach and game plan against.
That I played against, Teresa Edwards. She played at Dillard. I had to guard her, and she was a baller. She played at St. Mary's. So that was the toughest I ever played against in college. And then the toughest I've ever had to game plan against was Dom Davis. The Southern Miss Scout was mine when I was at ULM. And the way she made you think and question yourself. Because if you try and stop her, then you had to worry about these other people. So it was just a
willing passer.
It was. And so she was definitely like, to me, she was just unguardable.
If Jessica Barber wasn't coaching basketball, what would she be doing with her life?
I think I would probably go back to being a behavior interventionist or a special ed teacher.
Fulfillment.
Yeah, I don't have these big, massive, like, dreams. You know, I told you my dad, he was like, he was never that type. You can be anything you want.
Yeah.
No,
I'll tell my daughter that. I tell you can be what you're good at.
You can be what you're good at, you can be what you work hard at, and you can be what your skills allow you to do. And so I think my calling is definitely working with kids in any capacity. So I would definitely go back if when this college thing's over, if that ends, I'll definitely go back to being a special ed teacher or a behavior interventionist.
No doubt about it. Man, Jess, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. I know we have been talking about it for a while. Really appreciate the relationship we built way back in 2011. I can't believe it's been that long since I've been knowing you.
I know.
I think it's the first time I've seen you in some years too.
We haven't seen
I ran into you at a football game.
Yeah, I've seen you a few times when I come back for the car games. You know, I was they still gave me sideline passes for a while, you know.
They hard to get done.
I know, I was like,
Oh.
and I still felt, y'all, no matter where I was, I felt like I was somebody standing on those sidelines for those car football games, you know.
No doubt.
So, and you know, still, I know where I think I might have saw you at the premiere for that movie.
So did.
Yeah, that's the last time I seen you.
America.
So when they invited me to that, I was like, okay, you know, I know, first of all, anytime Car has something, they're going to be stepping, right? They're going to have on the nicest outfits. And I was like, I don't have clothes. I put me a little something together. I got there and I was like, okay, ain't no way y'all are dressed like this. It was amazing to sit there and to have lived that life that you were watching on a screen.
No doubt.
It was amazing.
No doubt. Now, I've always admired your passion for the game of basketball and just the work, like you kept saying the whole podcast, the grind. I always had respect for you and how you grinded and how you poured into them kids. I saw it firsthand. And, man, I wish you nothing but the best over there at Southern Miss, and I know the best is yet to come for Miss Jess Barber.
Thank y'all so much, man. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Listen, y'all already know what it is. Get locked in FanView Podcast if you on YouTube, FanView Podcast if you on TikTok, FanView Podcast if you on Facebook, FanView Podcast if you on IG. We are all over the place. It's still FanView NOLA if you still on X. You know what I'm saying? Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts.
We're all over the place.
We're all over the place. This is the best damn sports podcast on the goddamn internet. Y'all know what it is. Get locked in, get subscribed. Don't forget to follow G Sports. The man trying to get to 25K.
Come on, man. Give me that, man.
Before Mother's Day.
We about to
For
make
Mother's
it
Day.
happen.
Give them a gift. Y'all already know what it is. Get locked in. We can't stop. We won't stop. It's the FanView podcast.
G Sports, man, signing out.
Step Construction is here for you with a brand new offer. We now provide affordable storage sheds. Stop wasting your money on overpriced storage units and portable containers. Step Construction can provide you with a custom shed that will fit your budget and storage needs. So contact Step Construction today at 504-340-5809 for your own personal quote. Let us help you take the next step at Step Construction.
It's DatBoyFred, host of FanView podcast. Tune into the NOTN app weekdays 3:30 for the FanView podcast. Go to NewOrleansTalkNetwork.com to watch more episodes of FanView podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and watch.